Apple, a trillion-dollar company. It's one of the biggest and most popular companies that sell consumer electronics like smartphones. Founded in 1976, one of the masterminds behind this corporate giant is none other but Steve Jobs. Apple was also co-founded by Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs' friend. Steve Jobs was no doubt a transformational leader. The way he conducted himself and his works were a clear proof of it. There are 4 dimensions to transformational leadership, and we will be exploring 2 of those in this video. He had this thing called a reality distortion field, where he used his ability to convince himself and others around him to believe almost anything with a mix of charisma, appeasement, and persistence. It was said to distort his co-workers' sense of proportion and scales of difficulty, and to make them believe that whatever impossible task he had at hand was possible. Those who worked with him first interpreted his reality distortion field as a sign of harassment. However, his character influenced them to achieve unusual feats, such as changing the course of computer history beyond what international business computers could accomplish, with only limited resources. This makes clear that Steve Jobs displayed one of the dimensions of transformational leadership, which is inspirational motivation, the degree of how a leader can create a coherent vision that is attractive and inspirational to followers. He also displayed idealized influence. Idealized influence exemplifies elevated ethical behavior, self-esteem, and faith. Here's a story about Steve Jobs. Once on a night shift at Atari, he started challenging his partner Steve Wozniak to create a game called Breakout. Wozniak complained that the game would take a long time to make. However, Jobs gave him a look and told him he could do it quickly. Ultimately, the game was created and released to the market within 4 days. Steve Jobs once said, "The ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." Transformational leaders are described as visionary. On the 9th of January 2007, Steve Jobs took to the stage of Macworld and told the audience,
"We're gonna make some history together today."
And it may have been the most accurate statement he has ever made. Steve Jobs was an incredibly visionary person. This can be seen in the creation of iPhone. The invention and introduction of the iPhone redefined Apple as a whole. It also greatly advanced the telecommunications industry, which was just starting to get used to mobile phones as a primary communications device. He also played a role in the invention of the iPod, the iMac, and the iPad. Steve Jobs had his strengths and weaknesses, but ultimately, he left this world a better place. Since we mentioned Apple, obviously we're gonna talk about Microsoft next, right? In 1975, Bill Gates and his partner, Paul Allen, founded Microsoft to develop and sell computer programs. Bill Gates, a legendary, well-known figure today for his creation of Microsoft and his work in Microsoft. Bill is commonly associated with being a billionaire philanthropist, computer tycoon, astute predictor of the future technology, so on and so forth. He is more than just the world's richest man. He is an influential leader who transformed the world. Under his leadership, Microsoft revolutionized the IT industry and became one of the most important trendsetters in the modern world. Transactional leadership, as described by Max Weber, is a leadership that focuses on the role of supervision, organization, and group performance. Bill Gates in his earlier days was a transactional leader, though, through experience, he learned how to incorporate other leadership styles according to the situation. Transactional leaders tend to have a directive characteristic, and Bill Gates displays this characteristic. He often presents himself as a powerful and strict leader to rivals and his subordinates. Transactional leaders are said to always focus on the performance of each employee. Microsoft was a high-stress environment because Bill drove others as hard as he drove himself. He was growing into the taskmaster who would prowl the parking lot on weekends to see who had made it in. Transactional leaders are practical and have incredible focus. Bill Gates showed these characteristics in his work process. He liked to hash things out in intense, one-on-one discussions. He thrived on conflict and wasn't shy about instigating it. Being a task-oriented leader, he helped the team understand their goal by providing a series of steps that helped structure their initial meetings. He said, "I believe that if you show people the problems, and if you show them the solutions, they will be moved to act." At an interview, Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak said Steve Jobs had a very futuristic forward vision, almost a bit of the science fiction. Here's what life could be. But Bill Gates had more of an execution ability to build the things that are needed now, to build a company now, make profits now in the short term. You really need the vision like Steve Jobs had, but the vision doesn't go anywhere if you try to jump in and build products before they are cost effective for what they do. Return on investment is there. That's where Bill Gates was brilliant, he said. Throughout the growth stages of Microsoft, Bill's dominance on transactional leadership style contributed towards phenomenal growth of the organization. That endorses that there is a time and place for transactional leadership style to be successful. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs worked on the Macintosh OS together, and back then, Gates realized the threat it posed to his operating system, MS-DOS. So, being the opportunist he was, he announced the development of an OS called Windows, which he released 2 years later. Bill Gates is a model billionaire that did a lot of philanthropy work. He has a charity called Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where he had donated millions to many different causes. For example, one of it was providing 2 million girls and women in the poorest countries with high-quality contraceptive information and services, with the long-term goal of universal access to voluntary family planning. We have reached the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe if you have. And wait. Oh, right, my bad. This isn't that kind of video. Whoops.